Imagine sitting in a cold stone dungeon on a world you just barely understand.
Right. Totally isolated.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
And you're wearing this highly advanced electronic watch, and you are just watching the digital numbers count down to the exact second that your own ship, which is your only way home, is going to automatically self-destruct.
It is a really terrifying kind of precision, honestly.
It really is.
Because you aren't just facing death or, permanent exile. You are mathematically tracking its arrival.
Like a literal execution timer on your wrist.
Exactly.
And meanwhile, in the cells right next to you, the rest of your crew is violently, loudly losing their mind.
Just completely snapping.
Or snapping under the pressure of that ticking clock, yeah. So think about it for a second. What would it take to keep your mind intact?
It's a huge question.
Right. Like, what kind of psychological armor do you have to put on to sit in the dark, listen to your colleagues tear themselves apart, and just watch the seconds tick away?
I mean, most people would just break.
They absolutely would. So today, we are going on a deep dive into this profound narrative about the clash of civilizations, the devastating cost of human ambition, and really the incredibly complicated meaning of the word home.
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking at a comprehensive analysis of a mid-20th century sci-fi novel. It's this retro-futuristic vision set in what was, for the author, the very distant year of 2032.
Right, which is pretty close for us now.
Oh, totally. We're almost there.
Yeah.
But the text is called A Far Sunset, and it centers on a stranded astronaut named Paul Marlowe.
But, I think we need to warn everyone, if you're expecting a standard, stranded astronaut uses science to radio for help story.
Like The Martian or something.
Yeah, exactly, like The Martian. If you're expecting that, you are going to be shocked by this.
Oh, deeply shocked. Because Marlowe isn't just trying to survive physically.
No, not at all.
He has to completely unmake himself to survive psychologically.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is that we are looking at an intense exploration of cultural assimilation and also, the concept of societal devolution.
Oh, the devolution stuff is so good. We'll get into that.
We definitely will. And it also covers the often brutal consequences of blind ambition. It really challenges our fundamental assumptions about what it means to be, quote unquote, advanced.
Right. And this all starts in the dungeons, which are just the dungeons of a city called Baia, nor on the planet Altair 5.
It's a really grim setting.
Incredibly bleak. So the crew of the starship Gloria Mundi, which, by the way, translates to Glory of the World.
Such a wonderfully arrogant name for a spaceship.
Right. Just dripping with hubris. So that crew has largely vanished during their exploratory expeditions on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are only 3 remaining prisoners locked in these separate dungeon cells. You've got the second engineer, the chief navigator, and our protagonist, Paul Marlowe.
And we should point out, Marlowe isn't the captain.
No.
And he's not like the tough guy Marine. He is the ship's psychiatrist.
Which is such an amazing detail.
That specific profession is the fulcrum of the entire narrative, really. Because if you think about it, who better to navigate an absolute psychological breakdown than a professional who understands the exact mechanics of the human mind?
Right, he literally studies this thing.
Exactly. Knowing the mechanics and surviving the collapse, however, those are 2 entirely different beasts.
Totally.
So they're captives, right? And they know the ship's main computer is running a very rigid protocol.
Yeah, so the computer dictates that if the crew doesn't return within a specific time frame, it's just going to assume they are lost or compromised.
And then just blows up.
Right. It will self-destruct to prevent Earth technology from falling into alien hands.
Right.
And they all have those electronic watches synced to this exact protocol.
They are literally watching their executioner's timer.
It's like having an aggressively paranoid IT security system that just burns down the whole office if someone misses a password.
That's a great analogy, yeah. The sheer psychological torture of that protocol is fascinating when you look at the mechanism behind it.
Oh, for sure.
Because it's designed by cold, unfeeling machinery. It's completely devoid of empathy. It's just a safety measure for the civilization they left behind, right? Like an abstract strategic failsafe.
Right. Earth doesn't care about the guys in the cell.
Exactly. But for the individuals in those cells, it creates an inescapable pressure cooker. We actually see the human mind break against that timer in real time, and it breaks in very specific, neurologically predictable ways.
Yeah, we see the fight or flight response just, it's completely short circuit. Let's look at the second engineer. He's staring at this inevitability, and he just loses his grip on reality entirely.
He goes completely catatonic.
Yeah, he goes into a catatonic state and just starves himself to death right there in his cell.
He opts out. The psychological way of the countdown just overwhelms his survival instinct.
It's so sad.
It really is. The brain literally shuts down the desire to sustain the body because the mental anguish of anticipating the explosion is too severe.
He just can't take the waiting.
Right, so he chooses a slow, internally controlled death over the sheer terror of the external explosive one.
That makes a lot of sense in a dark way. But then the chief navigator's reaction is the complete opposite extreme.
Oh, yeah, it's violent.
Extremely. So while in captivity, these prisoners are assigned female companions by their captors, and they refer to them as Noyas. And as the countdown nears its end, the chief navigator just snaps. He strangles his Noya to death, and then he hangs himself.
It is visceral and so bleak.
It's awful.
But it demonstrates the violent, destructive side of panic. Their minds are still rooted on Earth. They're still tethered to the ship.
Right.
So when that ship, which is their only physical link to their identity and their future, when it's about to be vaporized, their internal reality just shatters.
Yeah.
The navigator projects that internal destruction outward. He takes a life before taking his own.
And then the timer hits 0. Miles away, this highly advanced, technologically supreme Gloria Mundi detonates. And the text describes it as leaving only a glass-lined crater. Yeah, like the heat was so intense, it turned the very ground into glass. It is the absolute total eradication of their past.
Everything is just gone.
All of their technology, all of their supposed superiority over this primitive planet is just vaporized.
It's a massive, fiery punctuation mark on the end of their old lives.
Perfect way to put it.
So the real question becomes, how does the psychiatrist handle this?
Right.
While the engineer starves and the navigator murders, Marlowe is just sitting in his cell, utilizing a very specific cognitive survival mechanism.
He's working.
He's working hard. He has spent the preceding days relentlessly conditioning his own mind. So as the dungeons shake from the distant explosion, he is just repeating a mantra.
Yeah, this part gives me chills. He says, "My name is Paul Merlot. I'm an alien, but this planet will be my home."
It's so intense.
It really is. He is phonetically adapting his own name, Paul Marlowe, to fit the linguistic structure of the planet. Paul Merlot. He is stripping away his Earth identity, literally syllable by syllable. But let's look at the mechanism there. How does just repeating a strange version of your name actually stop you from losing your mind like the guys next door?
Well, it's actually a form of extreme self-induced cognitive behavioral adaptation.
Okay, unpack that for us.
Yeah, so by changing the phonetic structure of his name, he is intentionally disrupting his default mode network.
And that's the part of the brain responsible for our sense of self, right?
Exactly, our sense of self and our memories. He recognizes that clinging to hope or clinging to the memory of Earth or the possibility of rescue, that is exactly what drove his crewmates insane.
Because it's useless.
Right. Hope, in an inescapable scenario, creates this agonizing cognitive dissonance between what is actually happening and what you want to happen.
Yeah, that gap between reality and fantasy.
And the tension between those two realities will tear the mind apart.
So you're saying hope is actually a deadly poison here?
In this specific context, absolutely. Radical acceptance is the only cure. He is deliberately dissociating from Paul Marlowe, the astronaut.
Because that guy is dead.
He died with the ship, yeah. Marlowe is actively participating in his own ego death so that Paul Merlot, the survivor, can be born.
Wow.
He is creating a whole new mental architecture that is capable of living in a stone dungeon on Altair 5.
I mean, think about it. Have you ever had to just compartmentalize a massive personal crisis just to get through, like, high-stakes workday?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You put the grief or the panic in a box, lock it, and force yourself to focus on the immediate task.
Just to survive the day.
Right. That's what Marlowe is doing, but on a planetary existential scale. He is amputating his entire history. But, and I really have to push back here, isn't there something incredibly disturbing about that?
How do you mean?
Well, I have to challenge Marlowe's method. He is listening to his crewmates go insane and die these gruesome deaths in the adjacent cells, and he is just coldly, clinically repeating his little mantra. Is this extreme clinical detachment a sign of underlying psychopathy? Or is this just the absolute pinnacle of human survival instinct?
That's the core debate, really. And I think the narrative intentionally blurs the line between the two. It forces us to reevaluate our definitions of empathy and sanity.
Because normally, that's not sane behavior.
Right. In a normal, civilized context, a man sitting calmly while his colleagues commit suicide nearby would absolutely be flagged as lacking empathy.
He'd be locked up.
He'd probably display psychopathic traits, yeah.
Yeah.
But we have to look at the environment here. In the context of extreme trauma and alien captivity, empathy for the dying might just act as an anchor, pulling him down into the abyss right along with them.
Like drowning with someone who's already drowning.
Exactly. If he allows himself to feel their despair, he will succumb to it. So his clinical detachment is a deliberate, necessary psychological amputation.
Just to stop the emotional gangrene from spreading to his core consciousness.
Beautifully put, yes.
Okay, but he isn't completely isolated in this process. He does have a tether, and I think that brings us to Miley Tui.
Yes.
She is his Noya, the companion assigned to him by the Bionic captors. Now, while the Navigator murdered his companion in a fit of psychotic rage, Marlowe actually relies on his.
She is an incredibly vital component to his psychological survival. Marlowe provides the internal mental framework with his mantra, but My Lai Tui provides the external physical anchor.
Right, she keeps him grounded.
She does. The text notes that she is a simple woman by Earth standards, but she teaches him the rudiments of the Bioni language. She offers him companionship.
And crucially, the text emphasizes that she is amazed by his kindness.
Which is such a telling detail.
She is shocked by his friendship.
Yeah.
And that detail tells us so much about the brutal, hierarchical culture of Bionora, but it also reveals something essential about Marlowe himself.
Yeah, that he hasn't lost his soul.
Exactly. Despite this cold, robotic self-conditioning, he hasn't actually lost his humanity. He hasn't become a sociopathic machine.
He is still capable of gentleness.
Right. And that gentleness translates across a massive cultural and linguistic divide.
It creates a staggering contrast when you think about it. The most advanced piece of technology humanity has ever created. The starship, right? This marvel of physics and engineering, it fails completely.
Just turns to glass.
It destroys itself because its programming is brittle. It can't adapt to the nuance of the crew being delayed. It just follows its binary code and blows up.
Yeah.
But the most primitive, fundamental tools, a human mind adapting to trauma through neuroplasticity, and a basic empathetic connection between two individuals, those succeed.
It's wild.
The multi-billion-dollar grand technological mission fails, but the intimate interpersonal connection survives the blast.
Because the human mind is elastic while the technology is brittle.
Exactly.
But, you can't just forcefully reprogram your own identity without a physiological backlash.
Oh, absolutely not.
The waking mind can be controlled with mantras and severe discipline, but the unconscious mind doesn't follow those rules at all.
It always comes to collect.
It does. We move from his waking, perfectly conditioned state to his sleep, and the unconscious mind demands a reckoning. It essentially presents him with a bill for his survival.
Right. So during REM sleep, the brain is actively trying to process and integrate emotional trauma that the waking mind has suppressed.
So all that boxed up grief.
Exactly. Marlowe has spent days blocking out his past, but the moment his conscious control slips, the grief just floods the system.
And it manifests in this incredibly vivid, terrifying nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
The night after the ship explodes, Marlowe dreams he is encased in a frozen tube.
Which is symbolic, of course.
Then the dream flashes back to a childhood birthday, and finally he sees a woman with corn-colored hair and blue eyes.
The archetype of the life he abandoned.
Right. She represents the normalcy, the warmth, the profound human connection that he deliberately walked away from to get on that ship.
The frozen tube is his current reality, isolated, cold, trapped. And it's contrasted so sharply with the warmth of his past.
Okay, let's unpack this dream, because the conversation they have in the dream is the emotional core of his entire arc.
It really is.
She looks at him and asks the fundamental question: why must you go to the stars?
And Marlowe gives her the classic, almost cliche explorer's answer. He says, because they are there.
Yeah, which just echoes George Mallory's famous justification for climbing Mount Everest.
It's the ultimate statement of raw human ambition.
It's just completely stripped of any practical reason.
For societal benefit, yeah. It's pure ego. It's the drive to conquer the unknown simply because it exists,
Right.
A biological imperative mutated into an obsession.
But the woman in the dream pushes back against that ego. She offers him everything a person is supposed to want: love, children, a happy, stable life on Earth.
And Marlowe, in the dream, explicitly rejects it.
He does. He tells her, I want to leave a footprint on the farther shore.
Yeah.
I want to steal for myself a tiny fragment of history.
It is breathtakingly arrogant.
It's so arrogant.
And yet, It's deeply resonant. It's the intoxicating lure of legacy. He doesn't just want to experience a life. He wants to be remembered long after he's gone.
He wants his name carved in stone.
He wants to carve his name into the permanent bedrock of the universe, a tiny fragment of history.
Right.
He was willing to sacrifice his personal happiness, his intimate relationships, his entire terrestrial existence, just for the chance to be a footnote in the grand story of human exploration.
You know, it feels like a massive sci-fi metaphor for modern hustle culture.
Oh, that's a brilliant connection.
Think about the extreme workaholism we see today. People who sacrifice their actual lives, their marriages, missing their kids' milestones, alienating their friends, all for the sake of, like, making partner at the law firm or getting a startup to an IPO.
Or securing their legacy in whatever industry.
Exactly. And then one day they achieve it, they get to the top of the mountain, they secure the title, and they wake up completely isolated, realizing they threw away everything that actually mattered just to leave a footprint on a corporate shore.
The parallel is exact. The realization hits that the farther shore is often incredibly barren.
It's just a glass crater.
Yes, you get there and you realize you cannot build a life out of footprints and historical fragments. The human nervous system requires warmth. It requires connection, community.
It needs other people.
Marlowe needs the woman with the corn-colored hair, or in his current stark reality, he needs the comfort of My Lai Turi holding him while he cries.
Because that's exactly how the dream ends. The cost of that ambition is suddenly violently real to him. He achieved his goal. He left a footprint on the farther shore of Altair 5. But the ship is a crater, his friends are dead, and he is a prisoner in a stone cell.
And he wakes from this dream screaming.
He is sobbing, completely breaking down in My Lai Tui's arms. He is actively, viscerally grieving the world he willingly threw away.
This completely shatters the facade of the clinical survivor we saw earlier.
Yeah, he's not a robot.
He isn't a psychopath,
Yeah.
right? He is a deeply traumatized man realizing the full, agonizing weight of his own choices.
The price of ambition.
The theme of the price of ambition is central here. His exile, his imprisonment, the dungeon, these aren't just cosmic bad luck. They are the direct, painful invoices for his desire for historical glory.
He bought his ticket to history.
And this absolute desolation is what it costs.
It humanizes him so deeply. You go from fearing his coldness a little bit to just aching for him.
Yeah.
He's a guy who thought he could outsmart his own biological human needs with logic, mantras, and ambition, and he just spectacularly failed.
But, you know, that psychological breakdown, that failure of his ego, is the necessary prerequisite for his assimilation.
Wait, really? How so?
Well, if he still believed in the absolute superiority of his Earth ambitions, if he still thought his intellect elevated him above his surroundings, he could never adapt to Altair 5.
I think he'd be too arrogant.
His ego had to be broken. The arrogant astronaut had to die in that screaming nightmare so the alien, Paul Merlot, could truly start integrating into reality.
Wow. Which transitions us from mere survival into the friction of actual assimilation. Because he has confronted his past, he's processed his grief, and now he has to step out of the dungeon and figure out how to live in the complex alien society of Bayan Nor.
He has to move from being a psychological case study to an anthropologist, basically.
Right, and he has to navigate a culture that operates on rules utterly foreign to his rational, scientific, post-Enlightenment worldview.
That's just incredibly dangerous.
It is. So, thanks to My Lai Tui, he starts learning the language, he starts understanding the social structures, and eventually his intelligence gets him noticed by the higher-ups.
The elites of the city.
Yeah, he is brought before the ruler of Bayan Nor, a man with the incredible title of Enkane the 609th.
Such a great sci-fi name.
It really is. So he is the God King. But this isn't like a cushy royal gig. There's a massive, horrific mechanism built into their governance.
It's the ultimate poison chalice.
Right.
The God King rules with absolute, unquestioned authority. He is revered as a deity, but, and here's the catch, he only rules for a single year.
1 year.
At the exact end of that solar cycle, he is ritually sacrificed.
It's wild.
It is a society built on a cyclical rhythm of extreme elevation followed by brutal public destruction.
But, like, why? Why would a society build that into their system?
Yeah.
It seems completely counterproductive to have zero long-term leadership.
Well, anthropologically speaking, it's actually a fascinating mechanism for social control and preventing tyranny.
Oh, I guess that makes sense.
Right. If the ultimate authority is guaranteed to die in 12 months, they can never consolidate permanent generational power.
No royal families hoarding wealth.
Exactly. The society worships the position of the god king, but systematically eliminates the individual holding it. It reinforces the power of the priesthood and the collective over any single charismatic leader.
It is so dark but so
It's
efficient.
very efficient.
So into this deeply superstitious, ritual-bound society walks Paul Marlowe, carrying the mental blueprints of Earth physics.
And he needs to make himself useful.
Right. He realizes he can prove his worth and ensure his continued survival and elevation by introducing basic mechanics to the Bayani people. So he decides to give them the wheel. He introduces the axle. He brings them the concept of the ball bearing.
Basic stuff for us, but revolutionary for them.
But it's not like he just hands the skateboard and they understand it.
Yeah.
How do you actually explain rotational mechanics to a culture that drags things?
That is the immense friction of assimilation right there. You aren't just handing over a physical object, you are trying to transplant an entire conceptual framework.
They're changing how they see the world.
Right. For Marlowe, a wheel is a simple application of physics-reducing friction. But for the Bayani, motion might be attributed to spirits, to the will of the gods, or to the inherent nature of the material itself.
So teaching them the wheel is almost like teaching them a new religion.
To introduce an axle, he has to overcome their existing cosmological explanation of how the physical world operates. He becomes a Promethean figure handing down the fire of technology, but he is constantly navigating the danger of that fire being misunderstood as dark magic or heresy.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because we see exactly how dangerous that misunderstanding can be with the kite incident.
Oh, the kite. Yes.
This is an incredibly striking moment in the source material. Marlowe, perhaps out of a lingering sense of paternal instinct, or maybe just wanting a moment of familiar Earth innocence, makes a kite for a young Bayani boy.
Just a simple child's toy.
Yeah, a piece of wood, some string, some fabric.
On Earth, it's a universal symbol of innocent play and basic aerodynamics.
But on Altair 5, aerodynamics don't exist in their worldview.
No, they do not.
The kite flies, the wind catches it, and the string snaps. The kite drifts and lands in a forbidden place within the God King's palace, a place considered deeply sacred or taboo.
And the reaction from the Bayani is swift, absolute, and severe.
Marlowe is seized, interrogated, and physically tortured over a kite.
This incident perfectly illustrates the central tension of his existence there.
Yeah.
Marlowe assumes that because he understands the mechanics of the world, gravity, axles, lift, drag, he understands the rules of the world.
But those aren't their rules.
Exactly. The Bayani don't live by mechanical rules. They live by spiritual and ritualistic dogmas. To Marlowe, a crate is just wood and cloth catching a thermal updraft. To the Bayani priests, it was an uncontrolled, flying object, perhaps perceived as a spirit or a demon, that explicitly violated a sacred, protected space.
It's just terrifying for them.
Right. So his torture is a brutal, visceral reminder that he is not in control. His scientific rationality cannot protect him from their cultural taboos.
It's a harsh lesson in humility. He might know how to build a ball bearing, but he doesn't know how to survive a Thursday in Baya.
Yeah.
Nor without stepping on a spiritual landmine.
Mm-hmm.
But despite the torture, despite these massive cultural setbacks, he does adapt. He learns the invisible lines.
He figures out how to play the game.
Right. He continues to trade his practical knowledge for influence, slowly ascending the ranks and securing a leading position in their society.
He becomes very powerful.
But I have to stop and look at the ethics of this interaction, because this dynamic introduces a really strange paradox. Wait, Marlowe introduces the wheel. He starts changing how they transport goods. Doesn't that make him less of an assimilator and more of a quiet, insidious colonizer?
That's a great question.
Is he actually adapting to them? Or is he just using his superior knowledge to slowly force them to adapt to him?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, that is the exact paradox the author is wrestling with.
Right.
The story is actively subverting and complicating the classic older sci-fi trope of the advanced space explorer bringing civilization to the primitive natives.
The white man's burden in space.
Exactly. On the surface, yes, the mechanics of his actions look like colonization. He's introducing disruptive technology that alters their fundamental way of life, increasing efficiency, but irrevocably changing their culture.
He's reshaping their physical world in the image of his own past.
He is. But the narrative complicates this by showing the internal psychological transformation within Marlowe himself.
Okay, so it goes both ways.
As he lives with them, as he bleeds with them, he doesn't just teach. He is profoundly altered by them. He develops a deep admiration for the Bayani.
He starts to respect them.
Yes, he begins to appreciate the stark simplicity of their lives, their communal reliance on one another in the face of a harsh environment, and the deep bonds that tie them together, the exact things he found lacking in his highly advanced, cold, fragmented Earth society.
So it's a genuine two-way street. He gives them the axle, which makes their labor easier, but they give him psychological grounding.
A sense of community.
They give him a sense of belonging that Earth never provided.
Precisely. He is constantly negotiating between his rational scientific mind and their deeply connective culture. He doesn't seek to conquer them, wipe out their beliefs, or declare himself their master.
He wants to fit in.
He seeks to integrate his practical knowledge into their existing framework to alleviate suffering, while simultaneously allowing their culture to heal his own psychological wounds.
Right.
He's an unconventional protagonist because his ultimate goal isn't domination or escape, it's symbiosis.
He's trying to be a useful citizen of Bayan, nor rather than its conqueror.
Exactly.
But his scientific curiosity, that inherent drive to understand, hasn't completely died. Which brings us to the next major turning point, moving his journey from mere survival into a full-blown historical quest.
The revelation that shatters the entire paradigm of the novel.
Now, this is the best part. So as Marlowe gains status, he gets more physical freedom. A tragedy within the community forces him to look deeper into the roots of the Bayani's religion. He starts investigating an ancient myth they passed down. They tell stories of a mysterious, massive structure hidden deep in an impassable mountain range.
A holy place.
And based on how they describe the geometry and the material of this structure, Marlowe's earth-trained brain starts flashing warning signs. The dimensions, the metallic nature, it sounds remarkably, suspiciously like a starship.
The physical journey he takes into those mountains directly mirrors his intellectual journey.
Yeah, he's digging into the past.
He isn't just exploring unmapped geography. He is hiking into the very origins of the people he has come to live among. He is scaling the mountain of their mythology to find the empirical truth hidden at the summit.
So what does this all mean? He makes the grueling trek. He goes deep into the mountains following the myth, and he finds it.
And it's not a temple.
It isn't a weirdly shaped mountain. It isn't a stone temple. It is an ancient, rusted, decaying starship. And this leads to the most massive revelation of the narrative. The humans of Altair 5, the Bayani people, are not aliens at all.
They share their exact genetic ancestry with the humans of Earth.
They are us. The text reveals that humanity, far back in an unrecorded, forgotten past, had already spread across the Milky Way. They had already colonized the stars thousands of years ago.
Right.
And the Bayanis are the distant, forgotten descendants of one of those ancient human colonies whose ship crashed or landed on Altair 5.
This introduces the incredibly potent concept of cultural devolution.
I love this concept.
We are heavily conditioned to view civilization as a straight, uninterrupted line, sloping upward, constant progress, constant technological advancement, relentless enlightenment.
But always getting better.
Exactly. But this rusted structure in the mountains proves that civilization is fragile. It can fall backward.
Totally.
A highly advanced, spacefaring people can arrive on a planet, suffer a catastrophic loss of infrastructure, and over generations entirely lose their technology.
They just forget it.
They forget their history, lose their scientific literacy, and regress into a primitive, superstitious society that literally worships the decaying hull of the very ship that brought them there.
It's hard to grasp the sheer scale of that forgetting. Think about it like a modern smartphone.
That's a good comparison.
If you take a smartphone and hand it to a completely isolated person who has no concept of electricity or networks, they might use it as a mirror or a cutting tool. If the battery dies, within a generation, their children won't know it was a device capable of accessing the sum total of human knowledge. They will just revere it as a shiny black monolith left by the ancestors. The utility is forgotten, and only the reverence remains.
That analogy gets to the heart of the mechanism of devolution, which is information entropy.
Information entropy, explain that.
Without the underlying infrastructure to support the technology, the power grids, the manufacturing base, the educational institutions to teach the physics, the knowledge degrades rapidly. The tool becomes an artifact, and the artifact becomes a god.
For Marlowe, standing in front of this rusted ship, the existential impact is staggering.
No, it changes everything for him.
We talked earlier about the clash of civilizations, Earth versus the alien world of Altair 5. But this revelation completely erases that barrier. They aren't alien captors holding an Earth prisoner anymore. They are long-lost cousins. It is a deeply unifying force for the narrative.
It really is.
It means that when he is teaching them the wheel or the ball bearing, he isn't colonizing an alien species. He is helping his distant, forgotten family rebuild a fraction of what they lost millennia ago.
This raises an important question, though. It entirely reframes his existence and his purpose on the planet.
Right.
Humanity reached the stars, achieved the ultimate ambition that Marlowe dreamed of, but lost its soul and its history in the process.
Which is incredibly tragic.
It is. Marlowe, by finding this ship, essentially reconnects the severed, isolated branches of the human family tree. Furthermore, by demystifying the Bioni religion, by realizing their gods were just ancient, fallible astronauts like himself, Marlowe is immensely empowered.
He knows the secret behind the curtain.
He now holds the ultimate empirical key to their entire belief system.
Armed with this absolute truth of their shared history and now wielding immense unchecked influence, Marlowe enters the final act of his transformation.
The culmination of his journey.
This is where the psychological conditioning he started in the dungeon solidifies into permanent reality. We enter the 3-year gap where he truly reshapes the world.
Because Marlowe isn't just a survivor anymore, and he isn't just an advisor, he is elevated to the most powerful positions in Bioni society.
He's basically running things.
And he uses this immense power to drastically, fundamentally change their societal infrastructure.
He doesn't hold back.
Yeah.
We talked about wheels and axles, which are physical tools, but now he introduces the concept of writing.
Which is huge.
He introduces advanced agricultural methods to ensure they don't face famine. He implements better industrial techniques. He is single-handedly pulling their society forward by centuries. But let's look at the mechanism of introducing writing. That isn't just giving someone a tool, that is fundamentally altering how a human brain processes reality.
Absolutely. Moving a society from oral tradition to written record is a massive cognitive leap.
It's rewiring their brains.
It externalizes memory. In an oral culture, history and knowledge are fluid. They're dependent on the memory and the physical presence of the storyteller.
If the storyteller dies, the history dies.
Right. Writing freezes thought and time. It allows for complex administration, the codification of laws, and the accumulation of technical knowledge across generations without the risk of forgetting.
So they can't devolve again.
By introducing writing, Marlowe is actively curing their cultural devolution. He is ensuring they can never slip backward again.
And as he accelerates their evolution, his own internal perspective shifts entirely.
Oh, dramatically.
The sources note that he starts to view the complexities of Earth, the endless political maneuvering, the sterile technology, the constant neurotic striving for more, as completely absurd.
He sees through it all.
He looks back at his own home planet and just sees a chaotic noise of meaningless complication.
Because he has found a profound simplicity and directness in his life on Bayanor. On Earth, he was a tiny cog in a massive, unfeeling machine. His actions had very little tangible impact.
He was just a guy on a ship.
On Altair 5, every single action he takes, every agricultural technique he teaches, every word he writes, has a tangible, immediate, life-saving benefit for people he intimately knows and cares about.
It actually matters.
He is the prime mover of an entire community. The psychological comfort of that tangible impact is immense.
But then, the ultimate test of this transformation arrives. After less than 3 Altair 5 years, the sky literally opens up.
Here it comes.
A starship arrives from Earth. Rescue is finally here. The very thing the second engineer starved himself for, the thing the chief navigator murdered his companion over, is hovering right above him.
It is the literalization of his past descending from the heavens to offer him his old life back.
It's like the perfect sci-fi ending.
It is the classic expected science fiction resolution. The hero survives his ordeal, learns some profound lessons from the natives, and then the cavalry arrives to take him home so he can share his newfound wisdom with Earth.
But Marlowe says no.
He refuses.
He looks at the ship from Earth, he looks at the rescue team, and he rejects the escape.
Yeah.
He chooses to stay on Altair 5. He completes the transition. He is no longer Paul Marlowe the astronaut. He is fully, permanently, Paul Marlowe of Bayanor.
It is a phenomenal subversion of the expected return home narrative.
It is the anti-escape. but it forces us to evaluate his true motivation.
Right, yeah.
Because I have to challenge this whole beautiful, peaceful assimilation narrative that his decision implies.
Okay, let's hear it.
Look at the mechanics of what he's actually doing. He stays because he claims to love the simple life and despises the absurdity of Earth. But he is spending every waking hour completely transforming their agriculture, revolutionizing their industry, and introducing written bureaucracy. Isn't he just putting them on the exact same developmental path that led to Earth? Isn't he just turning Altair 5 into the very complex, absurd society he claims to be rejecting? He likes the simple life, but he's actively destroying it.
That is a very sharp, valid critique of his actions, and it strikes at the heart of the novel's profound ambiguity. You can absolutely argue that he is planting the very seeds of the civilization he despises. However, the psychological arc is what dictates Marlowe's choice.
How so?
He no longer wants to, as he said in his nightmare, leave a footprint on the farther shore. He has realized the profound emptiness of that kind of abstract ambition. By staying, he is choosing to cultivate the ground directly beneath his feet.
He's gardening instead of exploring.
Exactly. He believes, perhaps with a touch of lingering arrogance, that by guiding their development personally, he can help them avoid the cold, mechanical, alienating absurdities of Earth.
He thinks he could do it better.
He wants to give them progress without the loss of their soul. Whether he is right or simply deluding himself is left entirely for you to debate.
But there is a much darker, much more immediate undertone to his victory here that we cannot ignore.
Oh, definitely.
The text makes a point to highlight this, and it changes the entire complexion of his choice. Marlowe achieves the absolute highest power in Bayani society. But we know exactly what happens to the highest power in Bayani society. We saw the mechanism in action with Ankh-Nay the 609th.
The God King rules for only one single year.
Exactly. And then he is ritually violently sacrificed.
Yeah. Yes.
If Marlowe has truly assimilated, if he has fully accepted their culture and taken on the mantle of supreme leadership to guide them, he has likely accepted that specific, fatal condition.
He knows what's coming.
He didn't just choose a new home. He very likely chose the exact time and violent manner of his own death.
It frames his decision as an incredibly ambiguous, almost terrifying victory.
It really does.
It is a triumph of adaptation, certainly. He survived when everyone else died. He found deep purpose. But that triumph is inextricably intertwined with a surrender to an inevitable, fatal societal role.
Yeah.
He fiercely protected his mind in the dungeon, only to willingly offer his life on the altar a few years later.
It completely reframes his decision to stay. It's not a guy retiring to a quiet, peaceful island. It's a guy stepping up to the guillotine because he firmly believes in the necessity of the executioner.
It's a profound sacrifice.
So we've explored a massive amount of conceptual ground today, from the neurological mechanisms of ticking watches in alien dungeons, to the friction of introducing technology, to the lost, devolved history of the human race.
A lot to process.
But Marlowe's extreme journey reflects core psychological questions that we all wrestle with. Think about it. How often do you relentlessly pursue a goal? A massive promotion, a move to a new prestigious city, the perfect title chasing your own version of a footprint on the farther shore.
Constantly.
We all do it. We sacrifice our time, our peace of mind, sometimes our deepest relationships, operating under the delusion that achieving that abstract goal will finally make us whole.
And it rarely does.
Right. But A Four Sunset asks us to consider the exact opposite mechanism for fulfillment. What if true meaning doesn't come from conquering the unknown or imposing your will on the world, but from radically adapting to the unexpected realities you find along the way?
That's the real challenge.
Marlowe found his true humanity only after his grand ambitions, his technology, and his very identity were burned to glass. It forces you to ask, what are you willing to sacrifice for your ambition? And when all the technology, the titles, and the history are stripped away, what does it truly take for you to look at a place and call it home?
It requires a profound reassessment of what we value. And, there's one final lingering puzzle that the text leaves us with, a question that recontextualizes his entire psychological arc one last time.
Okay.
If Marlowe's ultimate fate as the highest power on Altair 5 is the exact same one-year reign and ritual sacrifice that Ankh-Nay the 609th faced, we really have to question his true underlying motive. Does his decision to stay and face the altar represent the ultimate death of his ego, a man finally surrendering himself completely to serve the community? Or is it actually the ultimate twisted realization of his original ambition. By becoming a sacrificed god king, is he literally dying to ensure he becomes a permanent, worshipped piece of an alien world's history? Did he actually cure himself of his ego, or did he just find a much bloodier way to achieve his legacy? A brilliant, unsettling question to leave you with.